it's Anna with Lines and Legacies Genealogy Services, and today we're going to be going over a few small tips that make a big difference in your genealogy journey. First up on the list, we have researching your ancestors' siblings and their children. It's tempting to only research the person that you directly descend from, but researching their siblings and all of their children, even the ones you don't descend from, can make a huge difference in helping you know more about your specific ancestor. I've found obituaries for children say things like, Joe moved to this county when he was 4 from, Louisville, Kentucky. And all of a sudden, if you didn't know where that family was prior to arriving in a certain area, now you know. So make sure you research everybody, especially because so many times families moved together. They did so much together. They were often neighbors. They were really just collective units a lot of times. So researching everybody in that pod can help you get a much clearer and bigger picture, and it can help you learn more things about your specific ancestor, even if you're researching their siblings and their children. The next tip is search databases one by one. What I mean by this is if you're looking for a census record, instead of just going and searching the entire 1920 census for your ancestor, if you know what state they lived in at that time, just search for them in the state you know they lived in. So if you know they lived in Ohio, just search the Ohio federal census for 1920. You could do this with Ancestry, with Family Search, things like that. But this helps you narrow down the amount of results you get. That way, you're not scrolling through a ton of results from places like Kansas and Oregon when you know your ancestor wasn't there. Searching databases one by one for things other than census records, for anything really, can really help you like narrow down your focus and just cut down on just tens of thousands of results that you can get with doing broader searches. The next one is similar to the previous tip, but it's to filter your search results. Let's say you're looking for somebody in Anderson County, South Carolina. Maybe you've put in a specific name on a full text search or you've entered it for census records. You can narrow down your search results to certain periods of time. You can do this on Family Search and on Ancestry. If you know that you're looking for somebody in 1820, narrow it down to like 1810 through 1830. That way you're looking at that one window, and same thing, you're not scrolling through a bunch of results from the 1940s when you really wanted the 1820s. I find this to be especially helpful for things like military history. If you narrow down the year window, that way you're not getting like records from World War II when you're really looking for the Mexican War or something like that. It makes a big difference in just how much time you spend looking through things, and it can help you find relevant results a lot faster. My next tip is to pay attention to your ancestors' neighbors. Neighbors were very close back in the day. Like we previously talked about, a lot of times they may have been family members, they may have been uncles, siblings, cousins, but even if they weren't related to your ancestor, they were usually very close friends. Sometimes they may have been people that your ancestor didn't like, but in any case, neighbors always had a lot of interaction with each other. They were often there for major events in each other's lives, such as women helping other nearby women give birth and things like that. Paying attention to the neighbors can help you like kind of keep track of your neighbor's inner circle. And sometimes you find out things about your neighbor or things that happened in your neighbor's area that you might not have from other sources. One great example of this is through researching some of my ancestors' neighbors, I was able to find out that their neighborhood was actually occupied by the Union Army in 1863. If I only would have focused on my direct ancestor, I wouldn't have ever found this information out because she was a single widow. But by tracking some of her neighbors, especially a couple who were men, I was able to get a ton of details about what exactly went down in their neighborhood during that time, that some of their houses were burned, and it helped me understand why she left that area during that period. But this is something I never would have known if I hadn't looked at the neighbors. My next tip may seem a little obvious, but it's helpful because we all make mistakes, and that's to keep time frame in mind. When I say keep time frame in mind, I see a lot of people that find records that they think belong to their ancestors, but the time period is slightly off. For example, I've seen people save records for Revolutionary War service to people that were born in like 1790. The war was over by that point, but this is something I see quite a bit. I'll also see things where like it'll be a Union War service record or a Confederate War service record, and it's for somebody that was born in 1855. Yes, there were like some little drummer boys and stuff like that, but it is highly unlikely that someone born in 1855 is going to be serving in the army in 1861, and things like that. A lot of times these things will be off by just a little bit, so just enough to where somebody that's not a historian or doesn't have a lot of experience in genealogy might not notice it. But if you're seeing war records or other things like that for your ancestor, just make sure you look at their time of birth and time of death and then look up the period in which the war was fought or the other event happened. That way you can just kind of line up and see, does this event and the time frame it happened in seem appropriate for this person in the time frame in which they were alive. And my last tip for today is to keep an eye out for people with the same name. If you're like me, you have a lot of names in your family tree that are not exactly uncommon. You have people with names like John Jones, William Davis, Joseph Johnston, and things like that, where you're like, oh gosh, there's 1,000 of them when you look at census records. But especially pay attention to people with the same name in the area that your ancestor lived. A lot of times these are going to be relatives of your ancestor. One thing that I have found is a common stumbling block and a place where a lot of people get mixed up is paternal first cousins. You'll have a man, maybe his name is something like Robert Scott. Then Robert Scott will have a son and he'll name him Robert Scott Jr. And then he'll have another son, maybe John Scott. And then Robert Scott Jr. and John Scott will both have sons and name them both Robert Scott. All of a sudden you have two people who are close in age with the exact same name in the exact same place at the exact same time. It gets very confusing. But there are things that you can find to kind of like help you differentiate which one is your ancestor. A lot of times they would maybe change the middle initials. You might have a Robert B and a Robert J. That's one way that you can kind of differentiate between two people who are in the same place at the same time. Another thing is to just keep in mind what context or situation that your ancestor lived in. Like if you know that they were someone who was living in poverty and you find a record of somebody who attended a prestigious college in their area with the same name, it's probably not going to be them. Things like that. Oh, another thing that you can use this is people should not have multiple census records for the same year. So if you find like a person on Family Search or something, and there are two 1840 censuses linked to them, one of them one of them's not them. It's for someone else. And a lot of times it is a relative or a cousin. I really hope you enjoyed our quick video today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget that if you run into trouble, if you need help starting your tree, or if you get stuck somewhere, Lines and Legacies Genealogy Services would be glad to help you out. We provide affordable research rates across the U.S., and we are available by email. You can email us at lines.legacies@gmail.com. We are also on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We hope to add TikTok soon. Thank you so much again for your time and have a wonderful day. Bye.